with regard to the larger settlement issue and statements recently and actions on the ground, we are deeply disappointed that Israel insists on continuing this pattern of provocative action. These repeated announcements and plans of new construction run counter to the cause of peace. Israel's leaders continually say that they support a path towards a two-state solution, yet these actions only put that goal further at risk. So we again call on Israel and the Palestinians to cease any kinds of counterproductive unilateral actions and take concrete steps to return to direct negotiations.
Okay. Well, can I ask you, this is a far cry from what you said yesterday, and the day before, and the day before, and the day before, and the day before, and the day before. Why now are you taking this up a notch?
Because we're concerned about the actions that have happened in the last 24 hours and the continued acceleration.
Is it a recognition, can I just say, is it a recognition of the fact that when the Palestinians take steps that you think are provocative and unhelpful to the process, that those steps actually do not change things on the ground, i.e. going to the UN and asking for recognition there, and that when the Israelis do things that you think are provocative and unhelpful to the process, they actually have the effect of changing the situation on the ground and affecting issues that you believe need to be decided only in negotiation?
Well, we talked about this yesterday. The number one way to settle this whole question of building and settlements is for the parties to come together and settle security, settle boundaries between them. That is the right path forward. We don't want to see provocative action on either side, but you're absolutely right that this strong statement today reflects concern about what's going on.
But there's no, up until now, the Palestinians haven't had any recourse when these settlements are being built. Now, as an upgraded member of the United Nations General Assembly, they do have the option of joining the International Criminal Court or other courts and pursuing this as a matter of international law. And the United States itself recognizes that the settlements are not legal. So what incentive do you have to offer the Palestinians not to try and seek this redress in an international court when you yourself are saying that it's provocative and it's not legal?
Because it's not going to change anything for a single Palestinian. And in fact, it's going to make the environment for getting to the table, which could change the lives for Palestinians, all the harder. So if you really care about your people, if you really care about lasting peace, on either side of this, the only way forward is to sit down, talk it out, and figure it out.
But you can understand, can't you, that they don't want to sit down with the Israelis while they're continuing to build these settlements? What influence do you or does even the courts? I agree, they completely don't listen to that either. But what influence does anybody have over the Israelis to get them to stop building settlements?
Again, we've had provocative action all the way through this season. The only way to get this settled is for the parties to come back to the table. It's not going to be settled by any of these provocative actions, and we are calling it out today.
Follow up on your deep disappointment. You just said you're deeply disappointed. I assume that you're referring to the confiscation of about 450 acres, which is 1,200 dunams, yesterday from Abadis and Azaria. Now, how will this, deep disappointment impact what is going on the ground? It seems that from briefing to briefing, more land is taken.
Again, I think I just spoke about this, that the only way forward is to have a lasting settlement between these parties. But again, we are not in a good cycle here. We need to break this cycle, end the provocative actions, and get these parties back to the table. It is not easy. It has not been easy for quite some time. We can't want this more than the parties themselves want it, and we are going to continue to work on it, and we're going to continue to call it how we see it when either side takes provocative action.
I'm sorry just to keep beating this issue, but, if you are deeply disappointed. I mean, next week you can be exceedingly deeply disappointed, but the Israelis will continue to build. What leverage you can actually exercise? I want to ask this because we keep asking, we keep going around this thing. I mean, and
No,
next
now
week
it's
we'll
just
have
wasting
another
time.
statement. On the ground, what is going on?
Again, as long as the parties want us involved, we're going to continue to try to get them back together. We're going to continue to call it how we see it if we think either side has taken action that imperils the peace process. If there were a quick fix to this, it would be fixed. The only way forward is back to the table. We can talk about this for 7 more hours, but it's
How-
not going to change the...
How has your deep disappointment been conveyed to the Israelis? I assume your statement today was not a surprise to them.
Well, we're obviously making similar representations privately as we are making
Is that
publicly.
at the level of Ambassador Shapiro, or is Secretary Clinton, or one of Deputy Secretary Burns, or Beth Jones called?
It's at the level of Ambassador Shapiro and David Hale. I'll let you know if I have anything else to share with you on that
Gloria,
front.
are you concerned at all that when you say, you can't want this more than the two sides, given all that's going on by both sides, the
Right.
actions, are you concerned that you've reached the point where you want it more than they do?
I don't want to characterize that. You've seen the president say, including in the last few weeks, that he is committed to staying engaged. He is committed to continuing to try.
Right.
So we're going to do
Your
that.
comments today, your question before the last provocative action by the Palestinians,
Yeah.
that I think was the UN, right? There hasn't been anything since then, right? But at that point, you questioned the Palestinians, whether they were really interested in peace or not. And today, for the first time that I can remember in a very, very long time, going back probably a decade, you're questioning whether Israelis are really, the Israeli leadership, despite what they say, is really interested in peace. So
Matt, I was even-handed in my
no, I
comment
know.
that we can't want this
now
more
it
than
is
the parties.
even-handed. Now you've questioned both sides' commitment to, you're questioning both sides' stated commitment to wanting to get a peace deal. So I'm just wondering if, given with that situation, if you're worried at all that it has gotten to the point where you want it more than they do.
I think, frankly, I've made that statement probably 3 times in the last 3 months that we can't want
I
it
know,
more
but
than
have
the
you gotten to
parties.
the point where you think you do want it more than they do,
Look-
and that would be a serious situation.
I'm not going to make any ground pronouncements of that kind.
Okay.
I think we need to keep working, and the president's committed in his second term to
Okay.
continue working.
And then just one more. Would you be willing, would the administration be willing to put this strong language in a Security Council resolution, even though it wouldn't change the situation on the ground?
I don't think we think that's a helpful step at this point.
Okay, so just following on with that, if the European, I understand this is hypothetical, but I mean, this work among the 4 European countries is going on in New York and presumably could lead to a Security Council resolution. But you're saying now you don't think that it needs to go to that stage. That you
We don't think
it's
that is
security-
helpful, and we're making that clear. Yeah.
So, I mean, what could you do to be that would be helpful in terms of getting them to stop? So basically, unless the Palestinians sit down with them and talks, they're going to continue to build settlements. I mean, you make the connection between the only way to solve this is to sit down and have the talks, but that doesn't seem to be possible, particularly while the Israelis are building settlements. So what else can the U.S. do to kind of put pressure on Israel to stop them from building settlements, to create the kind of climate for talks that you're urging?
We're going to continue to make our case that this isn't taking either side closer to the table, just as we made that case in the context of the UN action. We will continue our diplomacy with both sides. We will continue to try to press them. Saeed.